will be covered by whatever law that goes for compensation.
The law is there and they are specific. You cannot say that you put yes, they were buried together, but what will applicable to the serving officers is not applicable to that of the ministers. Except that they were together to perform on
the serving officers have a specific
conditions. They have a specific laws that regulate with their compensation services. As a minister of state, there may be something, you know, we have these committees that we set under Article 71. Like you are going on retirement, if you die, they are covered by Article 71, right? But that's why and then I come down to Abuaji, who is an employee of NADMO, right? So if what he was going to do was mandated, it was within his service.
Was the deputy
that's why, but the only thing that your Director General, the one person whose is a controversial is Dr. Sapon. Dr. Sapon was not a minister of state. He is not a serving officer with the armed forces. He is not an employee of NADMO or any identifiable government institution for now, except that he is a party chairman. Or yes, we have a in my party. Sometimes the president is traveling and you have party members and others joining. By virtue of that, they are party officials and they have that. But the question will be, in the circumstances, who takes care of, whatever that injury or this and that may have suffered. So as for him, it is a bit controversial. But for the rest of them, I'm sure that will be taken care of. It's like if you are on a vehicle, commercial vehicle, and you are not a fare paying passenger, you don't pay fare. You will not be covered by insurance. Like OA bus has loaded from Accra to Kumasi, right? Or you are the driver's son or daughter, or you are a relative, and he says, "Oh, come, don't pay." You understand? And you don't pay and you sit on it. It's a commercial vehicle. There's an accident and people die. The insurance will cover those who paid fare. It's a commercial vehicle.
So they first have to establish
that
these persons paid fare. Without that establishment, everybody else will
only
be
fare paying passengers on the commercial vehicle who are entitled to. Assuming you are the aplanke, the meat, and you are on a commercial vehicle. Do you know you are not covered by insurance?
No, but aplanke, you are part of the crew.
What?
You are part of the crew.
Are you a fare paying passenger?
No, but you are part of the crew. You work with the driver.
No. So
if the driver is covered, you should be covered too, because
the driver is not covered. The driver is operating the vehicle. The insurance will cover the fare paying passengers.
If it is comprehensive.
If it's not comprehensive.
Not even comprehensive?
No, that is, you see, when
for
the
vehicle
is comprehensively insured and there's an accident, the comprehension covers the vehicle.
The vehicle, not
the those in it that are injured, the passengers, come under the third party policy. Right? Yes. So these are some of the gray areas that we have to look at.
So if
you are a party official, or you are the president's son, or you are related to a high profile person, and the plane is going, Mekobi, you jump onto it, and there's an injury or death. You should know where you belong to.
Yes, in moving the discussion forward, yes.
And I did mention that so long as that trip was authorized and it's official, there are systems and structures wherever one finds himself to be covered.
The president has authorized that
not necessarily the president authorizing the minister,
whoever the minister. Yes. I mean, you see the president because he's the
highest. Yeah.
A trip may be authorized, but at the time of giving the authority, the circumstances, are you covered?
No, I think we'll have to establish that's an important point. We'll have to establish that. But in moving the
situation, I don't think that's an issue, because whatever it is,
that we can just find money and deal with it.
Not necessarily so, because the Constitution and all rules and regulations have channels or have provisions of some of these things. If a trip is authorized and one is deliberately requested to go onto an errand, it is authorized. So you go into the details of the organization. What stands in there for such circumstance? So workman compensation you're talking about, the doctor will have to do the computation. So how much is it? And who
will pay? I'm looking at who
exactly. So the organization will have to make room for the payment.
Which organization?
Was a military aircraft.
Yeah. So which organization?
So who will pay? Is it the armed forces?
No. The issue is that the official function. What is the official function? What were they going to do?
The man is not an official. So what official function was he?
I'm talking about they were going to
the party chairman.
They were going to Obuasi for an official
to attend the
assignment.
inauguration of
That is
this thing.
official assignment. So long as it is authorized.
Was
They-
he going,
they-
was he going to inaugurate
Somebody,
them?
no, please.
Yeah, so
somebody
to launch
delegated
to launch the
program.
responsible
Responsible
mining
cooperative
I'm
mining.
saying that, was he going to launch it or he was attending?
the most
No, no,
important thing.
maybe he had a role in there. We don't know. We don't know. We don't know.
No, but it's a high-profile person, a vice chairman of a party, who has been delegated, requested, authorized to go for a function. Whether, sorry,
By who?
but when the business
Because
can
I'm
get to
listening
know.
to the interview of General Seydou Ketia. He said, "Oh, I was supposed to be on the flight, should have attended the function, but I couldn't attend. So I told this thing to go."
Yes.
Right? Did he have the power to authorize?
No, if
that?
he,
Why not?
if
Yeah,
if
no,
he,
don't worry.
if he
Oh,
was
yes,
asked,
As if I'm supposed to go somewhere, and I don't go. But the question is whether I had the capacity at the time to put another person.
He has. The
Perhaps,
party-
well, I mean, these are quite open.
I mean, we don't have the
No,
answers.
his
but
family maybe
he would have
engage
contacted
a lawyer.
whoever asked
That
him
is the
to
answer.
attend.
I'm giving the answer that his boss, the chairman of a party, has delegated him.
No, but the boss of the party is not a state official. He may sit in
What-
cabinet,
you are
but
talking
he's not.
organization.
It's not which organization?
But he's the chairman.
But NDC is not the government. NDC forms the government.
NDC
NDC
is
is
the
not.
party.
No, I'm coming here. The
NDC
issue is that
is a party in
please,
government.
The issue is compensation. Where is coming from? What is from a private organization, whatever? You know, I talk about workman compensation. Private organizations also have that provision.
Oh yes.
Exactly. So
So the workman compensation will come from the NDC. Is that what you're saying?
any payment that will have to go through will be determined which area it has to go. This person has been authorized, delegated to go for an official function. When
So the NDC will pay it.
when it comes to
If they
a situation
authorize
that
him to go,
whether
and then
NDC pays,
they must pay.
excuse me, whether NDC pays or government pays or a service whatever pays, when it comes to the crunch, it will be resolved.
Very well. Once somebody will deal with it. Let's
somebody-
move the discussion.
somebody will.
The country is seeing some unity over this period. We only hope that it continues that way. But the question is, what are we doing with the unity right now, the emotions we have as a country? Are we going to ride on the current of this unity and emotions to have some real policy shifts and real, hard decisions made, especially in respect of galamsey? Let me come to you, Honorable.
Yeah, thank you so very much. I think the unity is there, except that this was the time that it was activated. The Ghanaian sense of unity and sympathy was really, really in display during this situation. And the president gave the directions and he gave leadership. And so this is the right opportunity, exactly so that the president, is talking about the need to kill, the need to control, the need to ensure that galamsey is brought to a reasonable control is this. So that impetus, that motivation is there now, that we don't need to stop, because it seems that there is that unity now. These are, Ghanaians and able, smart people who were going for this official function, galamsey, or to small-scale mining, whatever it is. And so that unity must motivate us to move on. This government, in resetting agenda, in resetting Ghana, has all those areas in the system. The mining area, the education sector, the economy, all over. And so now, the focus is on cooperative mining. And that is why you have to support it. Nationally, everyone will have to get this supported for it to be successful. So yes, if the motivation, it's going to be an appeal that given the unity that we have, the current state of our unity, in that surrounded the mourning situation, that surrounded the tragic situation, and as a people, we still have to be reminded that this fellow, this friends, these Ghanaians, they lost their lives on duty because on this issue relating to small-scale cooperative mining. And so the motivation is there to move on with our policy and get it done, and done properly.
I see. Mr. Professor, what do we make with, or what do we do with the seeming unity we have seen and the outpouring of grief and emotions the country is feeling? At this time, people want things done hard and once and for all. Is this the time to do so, or we must step back and think through it properly? What should we be doing with this unity and emotions we see?
The good thing about history, right, as a subject, is that we learn from history events that have happened, right? But we do not allow it to repeat itself, right? So now we are united. Why are we united? We are united in grief because we have lost such important personalities and our own people. Under what circumstance? A plane crash, resulting from what? The degradation of our environment due to galamsey over the period. Very disturbing factor. We are losing our vegetation, we are losing our farms, our food, our water is being poisoned, even food, the use of chemicals and all the things. So what are we doing? What have we done in the past? And what could we have done to avert this? Over the period, you see, this galamsey issue, the approach to the galamsey issue, as I see it, if we want to be successful, it should be devoid of politics.
But can it ever be devoid of politics?
Yes, it can be.
Because you politicians say it's politicians who are in it.
Yes.
And so if one side of the political divide is seen sacking its people, that side will not keep quiet. That side will be finger pointing.
We need leadership. Good and committed leadership to the cause, right? He proposes. We want to fight galamsey. We set up committees. We put the military out there. We put the, what do you call it, all the people, vanguard and vanguard and so on. This vanguard goes round. Excavators are seized, right, at mine sites. They are put at police stations or wherever we want to keep them. Before we are aware, the excavators have gone back. They are lost. And nobody is punished. Nobody is punished.
It means that there's complicity or involvement even
So
from the
that,
highest
yes,
places
nobody
of
is
power.
punished. Sometimes I ask myself, these operations that they went around, seizing excavators, they went there, they seized arms, they seized, how much gold did they seize? Where are they? Who accounted? Are you telling me that for all the years that, and the Chinese running away, nobody left gold at the time? The monies that they have been using to buy fuel and some of the gold from the small, nobody left. How many of them were accounted for? And who is asking questions? They just go and bring some 2-3 excavators as if, you see, the whole thing is cosmetic. I come from an area where it goes on, right? Just after the elections, when change from MPP to NDC, do you know Buedria? Going to Akwetia, right? On the Moore River, right in town, mining was going on. Why? Government has changed. So this time, the NDC say, it is now time we can mine. And surprisingly, one day I was driving, I saw a military car parked there. This Nizam hard body. These soldiers were there, and mining was going on. I stopped to ask whether the chief was in town. And the chief was in town. You don't need to go. You don't need to go. Yeah, the chief was in town.
That the chief should stop them? Or it shouldn't be
if
happening?
you are the chief, do you know that Safu group? If the chief should call that Safu.
But I heard that the chiefs, some of the chiefs are also complices. We will see
the police were there.
Some of them.
The DC chief executives, all of them were there. And you see, it's not in the bush. Oh. This one, if you have been sitting in Trotro.
Maybe this was just after elections, and normally
around those times there's some lacuna. My brother, I come from there. I go there.
Yes,
it was happening. In the eastern region, around my area, we have this what the Ochimai environmental and that Ochi. Yes. They are all over. Where were they? Mining is going on. You go to this. And you see, I used to chair the Lands and Forestry Committee when I was in Parliament. In one of our rounds, we went into the forest around Ofinso. My brother, it took us hours to get there, and it was a whole established village for mining. These big generators, about 5 excavators, and you ask yourself, how did they get there? Where were the forest guards and that forestry? Where were the police, all the several barriers from Accra to this thing, where they have been turned into money collection points? Where were the police? It's the district chief executive and the chief of the villages they're not seeing the excavators move into the forest. You see, we have to come together as a people. Sometimes when the police go there and they want to arrest these galamsey, even the people in the town and the boys, the chiefs, all of them are collecting money. Chiefs, go to my place. When you go to along the Brim River, between Abodom, Chinso, and Krobo area, right? All the people are working there. I mean, sometimes there's a bridge at on the river around Chinso. Standing at the chief's palace, you can see mining going on, this champagne. And if you are driving, they are just on the river. Are you telling me that the assembly members, the MPs, all of them, once I met one of these military patrols, and I asked them that them people are doing this work. I was driving, I've seen them on the river. He says, yes, so even if you take them, they will still come back again. So even the military who have been deployed have given up. Because, like I said, we are not showing leadership. We put them there. Go and do this. They go arrest the excavators. We leave it to go. The people who are arrested, nothing happens. So all of us, the leaders must show leadership. And the people must show commitment, right? By coming out with Operation Vanguard, Operation Galam Stop, or giving them all the names and this thing, will not stop it.
So let me come in. You see, the point is that you are talking about leadership. It is not Operation Vanguard, Operation whatever. What went on in Obuasi that our colleagues lost their life were to support a scheme.
But Honorable,
so the issue that you asked the question,
yes, that
momentum, that unity, that came up during all this period, can we sustain it for the fight against galamsey? And I'm saying yes. Because
but you see, the criticism against your government really is that you are not, you've not been very forthright and very hard on the menace like you promised. So, for example, the repeal of the LI. I mean, people don't even know why that LI is still in operation. We've been promised that it will be repealed. We don't even understand why.
The state of
emergency that you champion in opposition. Nothing is being said on it. You know, so people expected, or people actually expect, that we should see more, not the launching of responsible
this government is
cooperative mining.
6 or 7 months.
Yeah, but some good things have been done, or some hard things have been done.
But yes, because you see there are laws that can be implemented. There are others too that have been repealed. And there are processes. You just cannot just, with all due respect, just change everything overnight. But the hope is that steps are being taken, demonstrating the preparedness and the will to get this thing done. And so one of the ways that we're talking about is the cooperative in mining that we are talking about. So you see all these guys, galamsey, doing all these illegal activities. When you bring them together, you bring them to as cooperative and legalize that. Give them the equipment, give them what it takes to get the galamsey done properly, not in the rivers. So the program is to resolve this matter of illegal mining.
Richard how different is this
from the community mining?
From the community mining.
We'll get to that.
Sorry,
Richard, just be thinking about it and you answer us. Richard Kumado, who is a security analysis consultant, has joined us on the discussion. Before that, let me take a few of the messages that have come through to us on the WhatsApp numbers displayed on your screen, 0204447033. This one says, dear host, I think Ghana has been thrown into a state of grief and mourning by losing 8 gallant and prominent comrades in the freak air accident on the 6th of August. Though the president has ordered these investigations into the tragic loss of 8 people, we have had a myriad of other such investigations that remain on the shelf that have gathered dust without action. I pray the good Lord grants the president, the government, and the bereaved families the strength for to shoulder the tragic loss of their loved ones. I urge the president to leave no stone unturned to fight the galamsey menace with full vigor. Good morning, dear Charles Achampo, Sefi Humjibre in the Western North region. This one from Mashoud Ibrahim Bishela in Kanda, Accra says, I salute you all at ChannelOne TV and City FM. Good morning to fellow Ghanaians. I still feel the pains and worried about the unfortunate demise of the fallen 8 heroes who left us on August 6th. My deepest condolences to John Mahama, the President, Vice President, all family members of the gallant 8 and hardworking men, and to the great NDC. I pray to the Almighty Allah to keep them, to grant them the right place in Janatul Fedwa's heaven. May Allah take care of their wives and children. This is Mashoud Ibrahim Bishela. Kofi Nakra says, may God help the families of the dead. And Charles K. in Dansuman says, the death of the 8 is so painful. We must be serious as people. We should come out. I mean, so we saw the event yesterday. We saw all of that. My guests, Prof. and Lawrence, have spoken about the investigation and all of that we need to be looking out for. But the issue about galamsey, indeed, a national security threat, we began seeing the difficulties with that, threat to water, threat to environment, etc. Now, it is taking lives of very key people. We saw Major Mahama in 2017 also killed in that manner by town people. They were deployed there by the military or by the state to go fight galamsey. He died in a very, bad manner. We said never again we will fight it. Galamsey, we've not been able to fight it. Now, 2 cabinet ministers, 2 former ministers, other appointees, and 3 military officers have also found themselves in this situation. Very, very tragic incident. What else can we do to deal with this galamsey problem from a security point of view? How should we fight it that we are not fighting that is making the canker linger?
It's a simple matter. When you take the issue of galamsey, there's a political interest, there's a business interest, there's a national security safety interest, and there's a due diligence interest. If you take away the 3 interests and you leave the national security interest, you'll be able to deal with it as quickly as possible. But the political interest is what is driving this whole issue about galamsey and the ineffectiveness at which we are looking at it. I don't think we are really structured in fighting to win the war against the galamseyers. My last conversation with Murtala was that they have been able to retrieve some forests which were in the hands of galamseyers. And we spoke about security risk assessment and some of the things that can be added on. If we have a structure that helps us to retrieve the forest which was predominantly occupied by galamseyers, and we have pursued in that direction, then it would have helped us largely in many of the areas where we have galamsey going on. But it's backed by a political interest. And the politician wouldn't want people to leave the galamsey sites because that is where they make money from. And so it's not like it's a national threat that we cannot curtail it. We have a full-fledged army, we have a full-fledged BNI, we have a full-fledged police with very serious, well-trained departments and units. If you take away political interest, we will be able to deal with it as quickly as possible. But guess what? Trying to curtail galamsey, which has been there for a very long time, without doing something about it, you are going to get some of the tragedies we are talking about.
So, I mean, we also hear that the galamseyers themselves are becoming very armed. We used to connect this to the political interests rather than the other interests, business interests or private individuals sponsoring these people, arming them now so they're able to fight the military and fight the police and fight all persons who want to stop them.
Definitely individuals who do not have political connections and they have no political associations, we will not dare to even get into galamsey in the first place. Or they will not even dare to arm these people in the first place. So some of these arms were smuggled to the galamseyers. And these are galamseyers that you cannot touch. But with my 29 years in this field, my understanding is that non-punishable offenses will rationalize bad behavior and promote antisocial tendencies in society. And this is what you have seen by and large when it comes to the motivation of the state to deal with people who flout our laws. And galamsey is one of those ones.
I see. So we've also been talking generally about the investigations. But even before that, given that the military has lost key personnel, Major Mahama, as I mentioned earlier, and now 3 others, what should be the attitude of the military towards the fight against galamsey when they are sent? Of course, they are always under command. If they are told to retreat, they have to retreat. But if they go to the field, what should be running through their minds? How should they approach the fight?
You see, you are creating psychological issues for the military in particular, who are the frontliners for these galamsey operations. We are trained as soldiers. We are trained as intelligence officers. We are trained to deal with threats against the state. Politics and political actors and political interests can destabilize the state. And I lead a team called Democracy and Governance Risks. And we can tell you on point blank that actions of politicians and political actors have destabilized many communities and many states across the globe. And so we as law enforcement officers, we see civilians and we see politicians to be people who are trying to play hide and seek. If you leave this whole operation in the hands of the military in particular, they would have dealt with it in no time. You create a psychological problem for them when you ask them to go to the field and you are the same people holding their hands. And remember, the military is a government agency. And by and large, they take some specific instructions from the military, from the civilians, who are the politicians. And that is where the issue is. Majority of these issues we are fighting and we are talking about has to do with instructions that are coming from politicians, and the military has to obey against their will and against their conscience. Because in every democracy, and in most democracies across the globe, if you want real development, then political governance and security governance must always be at par. If you swing the pendulum in such a way that there's imbalance and you do not work seriously to correct that imbalance, you are going to have difficulties. And we as trained officers, particularly the military, there are instances where they will pretend to be working and they will not do the work, and they will let you die as a civilian, and they will write the report and put it on the archives. When you take the particular chopper crash you are talking about, it is a known fact that politicians have realized that the Air Force provides transportation services to VIP and VVIPs. And for about 3 to 4 years now, I raised the alarm that considering the nature and the type and the limited number of choppers we have in this country, and the unlimited services they provide in that area, we are likely to have some issues. Nobody took it seriously. So that is where we are as a nation. And we need to wake up to our responsibilities and do the various serious things we needed to do and to build up this democracy and to enhance our governance structure. Other than that, we are creating too many problems for ourselves, and we pretend to be solving it when we all know that we are not actually not doing anything about it.
Now, I mean, the soldiers, honoring them posthumously, promoting them, etc. What does it mean to the psyche of the military officer who is being deployed into an area that is dangerous? Honoring him posthumously.
We are trained to deal with threats and security emergencies in hostile environment. So as a law enforcement officer, or as somebody like me who have worked in the BNI for many years, and I'm a senior when it comes to security intelligence across the globe, there are things we are taught to deal with. Hostile environment, hostile personalities, and emergencies. You can be entrapped in many of these things. Now, we learn how to escape many of these things. But when you are dealing with a national crisis, and you have a politician taking a decision, any wrong statement or any wrong instruction can create consequences and has consequential effects on both the psychic of the military. When it comes to promotions of our fallen heroes, it's a normal thing. We are happy, and Selon, you'll be surprised to know that we have signed what we call the non-existent. So death is what we have signed for. So the only thing that brings glory to us, to our families, and to meet us again when we meet in heaven, is when you give us the Ghana flag. So when you put a flag on our coffin, that gives us joy even more than the promotion, because we know the promotion will come automatically, and it doesn't really mean anything to us. Because the day we sign and we say we want to defend the integrity of the state and to ensure that national sovereignty is preserved and the guarantees are achieved, death is what we sign for. Richard Komado, many times guns were put into my head, and why they didn't kill me, I don't know. I have slept in Awodome Cemetery for a number of years and months. I have been at some of the obscure places across the globe, all in the interest of preserving the security and safety of your nation, or to some other places. And so that is what they signed for. And I think the way we honor them, right from when the bodies got to Kumasi, how they were all lifted to Accra, the processes for the funeral, and up to where we are as at yesterday, I was happy that we gave them what is due them, respect, honor, and decency. And that alone is enough. And we will meet them again when we get to heaven.
Very well. I'll take a short break. When I come back, I'll go to Prof to help us deal with some of the other issues he was dealing with, some of the misconceptions and what might have gone wrong, etc. And then we'll also talk to Lawrence Champon, who is a forensic medical scientist and security intelligence researcher, to also have his thoughts on a few of them. Of course, my studio guests will also have a few things to say about those before we delve into some other areas. This is a big issue, 97.3 City FM. Don't go away. All right, welcome back. This is the big issue. Alive on 97.3 City FM. Just having a quick chat in the studio. Yes. So let me give you some other updates. The Ghana Armed Forces has clarified that body bags were indeed available during the recovery operation at a recent helicopter crash site. You recall that the bodies, the charred bodies of the fallen 8 were put in cocoa sacks and tied and conveyed to out of the forest, outside of the forest, before they were moved to a place, before they were packaged properly, put in coffins, wrapped in the national colors, and then flown to Accra. The criticism was that it was not dignifying enough to have put these gallant men in cocoa sacks. Worst case, they could have used body bags. The military now clarified this week that it wasn't because they did not have body bags, but the condition of the bodies made it, improper to be put in the body bags because they were burning, they were hot, and the body bags would have been burnt, which would have created more issues. Indeed, some of the persons who carried the bodies on their heads in the sacks said when they carried them, they were hot. So, I mean, you can imagine what would have happened to the body bags, which mostly are plastic or polythene. So this is the military in this report clarifying some of the matters that came out belatedly though, but of course they were mourning, so you can understand that. Let's hear them.
The August 6 helicopter crash, which claimed 8 lives including 3 members of the Ghana Armed Forces, has prompted calls for more timely updates on the ongoing investigations. During a condolence visit to the Military High Command, the GJ expressed concerns over the perceived delay in information flow.
I believe that periodic and constant briefing in this regard will help clear some doubts. Even when there's no update, just giving or informing the public that investigation is ongoing and that the public should disregard.
Responding, Chief of the Defense of Staff, Lieutenant General William Ejapong, said investigations are almost complete, with the aircraft black box retrieved and awaiting analysis by experts and manufacturers.
The investigations have started. We are about completing the preliminary investigations, and that is what we inform the kind of investigations that we need to undertake. As at this moment, we have retrieved and are keeping the anti-crash recorder. We are waiting on the experts, the manufacturers, and a decision will be taken as to how it will be decoded.
He also highlighted that the recovery effort was the fastest in the nation's history for a helicopter crash.
In terms of the recovery exercise itself, this is one of the fastest recovery exercises involving helicopter in our country.
On reports that the bodies were transported in sacks, He explained that although body bags were at the scene, the nature of the remains and operational constraints made it impossible to use them appropriately.
We had some body bags at the scene, but the remains were so heated that it was not conducive for the bags to be used. It was in a thick forest, it was getting late. We had the option of leaving our remains there till the following day, and we know what could have happened to the body.
All right, so we had the chief of the defense staff there speaking to some of the issues. Of course, when the GJA paid a courtesy call, visited them to commiserate with them for the loss of their men. Prof Kwesi Agyekung is an aviation accident investigator, and he's been helping us deal with some of the technical issues, and he's been very much on point so far. He's an associate professor of aviation and aerospace sciences at the Department of Aviation, University of North Dakota, John D. Odegaard School of Aerospace Sciences in the United States of America. Prof, so this is what the armed forces or the chief of the defense staff is saying. Initially, when it happened, we criticized them that is not how you deal with your most prized people, put them in cocoa sacks, etc. It is not appropriate to do that. He's now explained that the circumstances did not allow them to even use the body bags, etc. And so this was the best way of doing it. Do you agree that this was possibly the best way to have handled the bodies or the remains of this gallant, put them in cocoa sacks and then move them, because the body bags, the remains were not conducive, the nature and the state was not conducive for the body bags to be used?
Thank you very much for your question. I think I will just, at this stage, even though we want to introspect and be able to make amends because of the sensitivities, even with that whole discussion, I'll just want to defer to whatever the CDS said, and we'll take it out. From my perspective as an aircraft accident investigator, I think, Dr. Kofi, the forensic medical expert, stated that the field investigation itself is multidisciplinary. And so if I'm the...
That's Lawrence Kofi Achampong. Lawrence
yes,
Achampong.
Yeah, Lawrence. So if I'm the investigator in charge and I get to the crash site, normally we'll have the incident commander or the on-site commander. Normally that's the local law enforcement, the local police, maybe working with the fire service. One of the key elements of the site management is identification, preservation, and retrieval of remains. That is normally handled in the US by the coroner, okay? Because at that point, it is assumed that it's a crime scene. And so even as an aircraft accident investigator, that is one area that I'll defer to the expertise of the coroner or whoever, the judicial representative mandated to handle remains. And so if based on the expertise, I don't know whether they had a coroner or a medical, forensic pathologist on site, and they were best positioned to make that decision. I cannot sit here in the comfort of my office and in hindsight, be judgmental as to how those bodies were handled. Remember, these are also what? Perishable evidence. They couldn't have just left them there like that, because Kofi or Lawrence will agree with me that one of the key elements of forensic analysis is that we also even want to, as an investigator, I would like to have some element of what we call chemical toxicological analysis of the remains, especially the flight crew. It is very pertinent to my investigation because I want to know, hey, inadvertently or for some reason, did the crew take in something, were they on some medication or certain thing that could have potentially impaired their judgment, influence their performance on the flight. And so that is why it's very important to
know or have the expertise on how to handle human remains at a crash site. And so maybe this is not the best practices, but remember, practically the constraint that the first responders faced. This is a hilly area, mountainous area. I learned it takes about 2 hours from the town to that place. They couldn't have left the remains there waiting for some super sophisticated body bags to be able to send it there and break them down. So sometimes, yes, theoretical implications of what we teach in the classroom is there, but practicality also comes to bear. So if that is the case, and that was what was available to get them down so that we can have a dignified transfer, rather unfortunate, but somehow the job got done. We were able to have a dignified transfer. I don't know the level of putting them in sacks. How it contaminated the bodies for later forensic analysis. But whatever it is, that is why the investigation is taking place. These are all areas that if I'm an investigator, I'll write, in writing the report, we'll look at the appropriateness of the retrieval process and how best we can improve it if it were to happen again. So I would not, in hindsight, sit here and be critical of what transpired, because pragmatism faces theoretical consideration. That's all I have to say.
All right, so talk to us also. We know there are normally two pilots, the pilot and the co-pilot. For reasons you talked about, maybe the toxicological composition of all of that, to see whether they might have taken in something or not, and the instruments, the visual flight roles and all of that, using landmarks and the fact that they could be impaired, the fog, all of that. Is that not the reason why we have two people in there, so that it is not just the decision of one, it is a combined decision, so that if this is not clear to this person, hopefully it might be clear to this other person. If this person is feeling not so well, this person hopefully might feel better or well, so that they could eventually guide the aircraft to safe landing. Is that not why we have two of them? So how come that all of these things we are talking about, one could not be good enough or well enough to sort it out or to help the situation?
Yeah, thank you very much. As at now, we don't know. And so that is why the investigation is taking place as to what transpired in that cockpit. All that we are trying to say is that in aviation, the rule of redundancy, safety management, we always look at the rules of redundancy. And so that is why even in the cockpit, all the instrumentation, we try to have redundancy. We have doubling, so that they back up each other. Crew, we have our crew resource management. Okay, so under crew resource management, we are looking at things like effective decision making. We are looking at team dynamics. We are looking at effective communication. We are looking at things like situational awareness. How do you sense what is happening around you? Build the appropriate mental model which influences your decision, and you're able to project and make safety critical decision. The problem is, as at now, and that's why I stated earlier, as part of the investigation, we would like to, through interviews, through an analysis of the behavioral pattern, or maybe what was happening to the crew, 72 hours to the flight and 30 days prior to the flight. We want to know their mental state. I'm not saying something weird or something out of the blue had happened to them, but it's always good as an investigator to have that, build that psychological profile of the crew. Look, the most well-trained pilot, and I've been a military pilot, I've flown VVIP flights, I've been to Obuasi doing bullion flights, I've taken gold from Obuasi to Accra in my service days, I've been an airline pilot, and despite all my training, there have been times that because of some psychosocial factors, maybe it's even unrelated to operational matters, which sort of could potentially, we call it the I am safe rule. It sort of it sort of eats you up. And so as a pilot, you want the maximum focus on the task at hand. Unfortunately, as military folks, sometimes we have to compartmentalize. And so if you even have two crew members, the optimal situation is to have both of them in tip-top scenario. Because one, when the environmental conditions degrade, as could have happened, you are relying on your colleague to be able to provide the necessary inputs as part of the what we call the shared situational awareness or distributed situational awareness between the two crew members. So if, for instance, one of them is situationally, not aware of what is happening, the other one is normally supposed to help the other one to regain situational awareness. But hey, we don't know yet, and that is why we are collecting the body of evidence to be able to sort of build a holistic picture and find out how come we had two crew members, and for some reason, potentially there was a breakdown in. I mean, I cannot be emphatic because I don't have the evidence, but somehow the level of crew resource management at that time, the outcome sort of almost doesn't support that fact. And also threat error management, how we appreciate the threat, the risk at that particular point in the flight. And so these are all areas that, like I said, there's so much hyper focused on only the flight data recorder, the cockpit voice recorder. That is just one aspect of the investigation. The human factors investigation is also very, very important. And so that is why, as an investigator-in-chief, I would work with a multidisciplinary team. We'll have flight surgeons, we'll have flight psychologists, and they will be probing. We would want to almost sit in the mind of the crew up to that point of the mix-up to find out, hey, what most likely was happening to the crew based on the cues that they were getting from the flight instrument, from the visual conditions outside, from their own physiological state, things like fatigue. So if, for instance, both of them, based on their flight duty time, there was a likelihood that there was fatigue, either acute or chronic fatigue. Fatigue is such that no matter the level of your training, it is going to impair decision-making. Your reaction time is going to be reduced, okay? Especially in safety critical or non-normal conditions. And so everybody should relax. Investigators, if they are professional enough, they will consider all the corpus of evidence, they will tie them together. It's like we are weaving kente. We are taking various strands of evidence. Some are blue, red, yellow, white, green. We are weaving it together to have an intricate tapestry. And then we present the report. And at the end of the day, all of us will see that, okay, most likely, this is what happened. And the most important thing is that if we know what has happened, how do we improve so that such a thing never happens again? We've lost crew members. We've invested so much into these people. Hundreds of thousands of dollars to train pilots. We don't want this to happen again. We don't want to lose personnel. As a retired officer, as a pilot, I mean, it still haunts me up to today. I was a safety officer for the Ghana Air Force base, head of safety, and a lot of establishing the safety management system for the Ghana Air Force. I've been involved in training these people when it comes to safety management, crew resource management, threat error management. And so it really eats into me, because how do we prevent this thing from happening? We don't want to lose equipment. We don't want to lose personnel. And most likely we want our personnel to go to work, do a superlative job, and come back home to their families. That is the number one, our objective. And Ghana deserves to, we need to move forward with what? Improvement in operational efficiency and in safety. So, in a nutshell, it is what we make out of this that is the most important thing.
Very well. Just a small point there. The psychological makeup of the pilot. We know that he had been bereaved a few weeks before, or so a month before, a sibling or a relative had passed. And also, I'm sure the daughter who was newly born, the wife said the daughter's health held him back for an extra week before he could leave and all of that. So the point you're making is that if these are proven, all of these could have worked on the minds of the person.
Exactly. From a human factors perspective, I mean, that is why we say that anytime in aircraft accident investigation, we tend to have the focus on, the crew, it was pilot error. We call it the proximal, focus. oh, it was pilot error. But behind what we perceive as pilot error, in our hindsight bias, counterfactual arguments, we need to be, circumspect and drill back to higher level factors, what we call the blunt edge. So things like, what other factors could have influenced the performance of the pilot at the individual level, at the squadron level, at the Air Force level, at the strategic level, the decisions that are made, the support systems for the squadrons in terms of training, currency, equipment, everything will be considered, because we, the pilots, are the last line of defense. There are far bigger factors upstream that needs to be sort of probed, and we need to look at if there were systemic deficiencies all the way to the top. Who provides the resources for us to be able to attain our operational, operational and tactical objectives?
Very well.
So if we don't provide the resources, basically we are setting up these people to fail. If you are not providing the resources for the Ghana Air Force, the new platform, the new technology, the training, consistent training, staff continuation training.
Very well.
And we expect them to perform.
Very well.
It doesn't work that way.
A final one, and quite briefly, also another pedestrian, talk and concern or curiosity that the plane exploded, not exploded, it caught fire. Why will it catch fire if it fell into the forest or crashed into the forest? We understand it's a very deep forest, and so it might have fallen on trees. Why will it catch fire and get the bodies burnt that way? Why didn't it just fall on it? Did it as if it fell on a hard ground, fall so hard that it explodes or it catches fire? Why will it catch fire if it even fell on trees?
Okay, so once again, maybe a little bit of the physics of or the mechanics of an aircraft or an aerial vehicle. This is a helicopter. You are talking about high kinetic energy because of the rotating parts. You have fuel on board. Remember, it was supposed to be a return flight. They don't have refueling facility in Obuasi. So most likely they would have what we call tankering. They would have taken enough fuel to take them to Obuasi and back. And so if, from what we are gathering, for instance, if it was a controlled flight into terrain and they have the evidence, we are able to gather evidence to say, prove that. If any of the rotating part or any parts of the aircraft were to contact maybe terrain or maybe a tree, there obviously there will be separation of the parts. And remember, you have heated components of the engine. If you understand the dynamics of a turbine engine, air is being taken, it's compressed, it mixes with air. It is it's a controlled explosion within the engine, and that is what is generating the thrust to turn the turbine, which keeps the aircraft afloat. So anytime there is a perforation of the container that is holding these controlled processes, what produces fire? You have an oxidizer, you have a fuel, fuel there, and then you have an ignition source. And so obviously, if it contacted tree and there was separation and the engines are coming apart, the transmissions are coming apart, even when you are driving a car at top speed and you go up the road into a ditch and part of the engine casing is perforated or is breached with fuel coming out, you have an explosion because you have fuel, you have an oxidant, you have a spark. And so it is not out of this world that normally an aircraft crashes into terrain. You have what we call post-flight fire because you have oils, you have lubricants, you have fuel, all of them are flammable. And obviously, there is air, there are hot sources, it will catch fire.
Very well. Thanks so much, Prof. Professor Kwesi Agyekum is Associate Professor of Aviation and Aerospace Sciences at the Department of Aviation, University of North Dakota, the North Dakota George D. Odegaard School of Aerospace Sciences in the U.S. Thanks so much for your interventions today and your expertise. We appreciate it, and thanks so much, Doc. All right, Franklin Cudjoe, President Imani Africa, is joining us. Franklin, a few civil society organizations, at the time the investigations were announced said they did not feel that the military should lead it, but an independent body should rather lead it. Now, we've heard from the military or the armed forces. They say they are collaborating with other international people to get these investigations done. Does that give you civil society people some reprieve or some confidence that we will have, or we'll get to the bottom of this? The fear was that, given how military people do, carry out their things, some things will be kept secret and not open to the public. Does this offer you some reprieve or some confidence that we'll get to the bottom of this?
Good morning to your good self and my colleagues on the panel. Dr. Jekum, thank you so much for your scholarship. You know, I haven't heard Dr. Jekum and indeed all security experts who have been speaking on this matter. I think it will be a bit like foolhardy to suggest that any part of this investigation should be shielded at all. I mean, of course, even some of the most advanced countries, when these things happen, they try to be thorough and then make sure that not just thorough, but also transparent. My worry, though, is that I'm not ascribing I will never ascribe any ulterior motive to the Ghana forces at all, not at all. But I'll be worried that for an army that is whose assets are somehow systematically declined over the years, they should be the most interested in making sure that this issue is investigated to its level. And if indeed any of the factors responsible for the crash are keen or are related to some of the rare information I've been privileged to see, the report of the Armed Forces Council, and I think I've shared some already. I shared a summary, right? It will be in their interest so that they rally the public along. There's a reason I'm saying this. See, once we get there, don't forget, anytime certain equipment regarding equipment like aircraft is being purchased, either for the military, sometimes the military you don't normally hear so much house or opposition from the opposing camps, political camps, but usually if it's for the presidency, right, irrespective of whether the president is the armed forces chief or commander or whatever, it becomes a subject for constant political bickering. And much as I feel sad that such conversations should be politicized, well, you and I are also very much aware that the procurement-inspired economy that we run essentially makes it easy for the Defense Council or Defense Unit of the Defense Ministry to hide under these whole conversations about secrecy and then give us a bill that we would not be happy about. So the armed forces at this stage, being between the extreme partisan expressions, or if you like angst against how the politicians have used their army to purchase stuff that they don't necessarily require, or they don't purchase substandard stuff, versus the fact that, look, we've lost lives. These are human beings we've lost. Let's not forget that their parents, they have dependents. Yesterday it was so sobering. I never cried in my life that much, not because for money that I was close to, but the whole thing. These are humans we've lost, and I think it is important that whatever the armed forces, whatever council is interested in, they should be interested in just the truth, how this thing happened. No shielding. It will be foolhardy on their part to even entertain such a thought. And I've been talking to a lot of people. I mean, I met a former Air Vice Marshal last week, and we had conversations, and we want to start doing some real studies into these kinds of military. He's offered a scholarship and a few others as well. And I'm sure that these are areas that we need to start getting into as well. It is not rocket science. This thing, it shouldn't be something that, armed forces, everything. What is secret? Secret about what? People have lost lives, or people will continue losing lives. As I hear, some of the aircraft that are, how do you call it, that old and disused are cannibalized to keep on peppering or tippering the ones that we have. What is this? What is this? I mean, I can't believe in for the life of me that we have an armed forces that is, whose assets are systematically in decline. And I think I put it out there. I don't know if I probably should put it out. And nobody has come to question it, because the source I got it from, it's all corroborated from the highest level of the army, including the political. And I put it out because I thought, no way. We couldn't have borrowed almost 13 billion euros in the last 8 years, and we couldn't retool our platform simply because we were afraid that if we did, the opposition would take it. And indeed, the opposition at the time, the likes of my good friend Kujetu, even the late Mutala, questioned these purchases, not because they doubted the fact that I mean, maybe I'm speaking for them, not because they doubted the fact that we needed them, but also somehow because they fear that, all these things are procured quietly, and then what do we do? Look at Ghana Gas. The moment you give any opportunity to a government entity to create certain institutions or create a personnel to harness our resources, they mess it up. Ghana Gas has more human beings. Sometimes I wonder whether the human beings themselves produce gas than the Ghana Gas itself was supposed to be set up for. You understand? And then they purchase an aircraft, which is what I suspect is being utilized right now for almost everything. Why should the army, the army that we said is the most, what's the word? When we were young, we said, Ghana army, they share. They do things, they go to Lebanon, they get all these good reviews and all of that. But at the home front, and I'm told that the things we have there that we call equipment, if Togo comes here within 2 minutes, we'll be run over. Assuming terrorists are listening, and don't forget all these things that are happening in the sub-region must also be worried. I'm sure Captain I didn't hear him initially, but I'm sure in his very advanced studies, I'm sure he would also be, just as you are asking questions, what if there were terror elements also? Because don't forget gold, smuggling gold, and all of this have connections of what I call, what's it called, organized crime, right? What if these people were there and then somehow they colluded and brought this aircraft? We don't know. But the response time of the army, what were they going to use in responding? It was a regional minister who was telling us about response time. What does he? He's like a layman. I'm like a layman. Why should we be listening to him when they say, "Oh, the army was there in record time"? With what? With what tools to collect the debris? Sorry, the human debris. Again, whatever we saw there, others were collecting those things. There are tools we use in collecting. Does the army have those tools? I'll be surprised if they have such tools. So this is the time the army needs to. You see, the army has this unit they call the Army Civilian Relations. I think it was Dr. Kufuor who actually popularized this concept. Remember when he decided to demystify the army, that we need to have civilian relations. Even my good friend, the late General Quinn, when he eventually met students we put together to tell us how to prevent coups. It was an interesting encounter. And all the things he said, and the things he told us about the way the army is perceived. He said it's a farce. Armies are supposed to be relational. They are humans. And what do we know of army here? Hey, we are that's not what the army is supposed to be. So this is an opportunity for the army to extend these, if you like, civilian relations, because civilians have been killed. Civilians, even military people with wives, with dependents, and everything. So this is not a light matter. And I think that anybody who politicizes this matter must bow his or her head in shame. I think the military now should be more interested, and I think they have a listening president, John Mahama, who would make sure, and I know what the money used to do. I mean, we used to talk, and he complained about these things. And so this time we need to get on with it. We are not saying that whatever must have happened may be due to whatever, but the response time is a function of the assets that the army has. What tools would they even use to collect and do this investigation? That's why it is wise for the president to say, look, we need external help. But external help over evidence that has been probably tampered with body collected in sacks. Jesus Christ.
But that has been explained, that given the nature, the bodies were heated.
I understand.
All right, that's fine. So on that note, let me speak to Lawrence. So Lawrence, you were concerned about the contamination of the site, etc. Does this explanation by the military do it for you? I mean, obviously your bodies were hot or heated, as they said. They couldn't have been carried in a certain manner, a manner that you would be happy with. And it was night was falling. They couldn't have left these bodies down there. They could have decomposed. We don't know who was behind this. People could have come to clear them of, and we don't know. So the best approach was what they did according to the military. So given that this is the best way we could have done it, how best can we get a good report or result from what we have in terms of investigations?
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you very much. Please, I hope you can hear me. I think this is a very important area when it comes to forensics, and especially forensics in disaster. And